Hello, people. I got something to say. Um, so this happens quite a few times when I start to tap into certain things. Now, I ultimately tap into who I really am, which is not in a human form, but then I tap into other parts of who I was before this coming into this type of simulation, let me say. When I tap into who I was before coming into this type of simulation, I have feathers on. Okay, I'm wearing feathers. I constantly see somebody with feathers. I constantly see feathers. Let me just say that. I constantly see feathers. Now here's what I'm saying. Somebody brought this up too in in one of their lives. But I'm like, why do I keep seeing that part? That's letting me know that the stuff with the indigenous, that's true. A lot of brown Americans. But it's not in this kind of world. It's not in this type of simulation. The land that a lot of us was on, it's in the real world and not in this false world. It's not in this simulation. So that's why I don't mind. I like listening to people like Dane Calloway. I like to hear their information. But getting back to that kind of land is not going to happen in the false world, because that when we were there, that was the real world. Something happened where our consciousness was taken into like a type of matrix. We were put into a different, not to say that wasn't a matrix itself, okay? That's not to say that wasn't, but we were brought into a matrix within a matrix, okay? We were brought down even lower. So it's almost like to get back to that kind of the real world of where we were as indigenous, you have to rise higher. You have to vibrate higher in order to see the land that probably never disappeared. It's when we're not seeing the world for what it is. I feel like that's the meaning of only using 3% of your brain. I don't think we ever lost that land. I think because we are looking at one little small speck of light, the false light, we thinking that something was taken from us that was never taken from us. You have to rise in consciousness. It's a lot of effort. Let me tell you something. Don't get me wrong. They want to do stuff to brown people all over the doggone world, I guess, if you call this a world. I mean, I know they want to make sure they clone all the Africans. I already heard that little conversation. Not from people. I've heard it, in the ethers. That they want to clone all the Africans. That was like, I think maybe, I can't remember. Maybe earlier this year, very, very early this year when I heard that. Or last year, something like that. Late last year. But I've never seen media once try so hard to tear down a group of people like I see them tear down the Americans, the brown Americans. I've never seen media try so hard to make sure the whole entire world see brown Americans as freaking incels. And not only doing it in media, I feel like they are messing up the wiring to keep these folks confused. I've seen it. Let me tell you what I saw, and this was in 2021 when I saw this. Like, so picture a bunch of yarn. I picture black yarn and picture white yarn. And you know how it looks when you buy it from Michael's and all this stuff. It looks nicely rolled up. If you pick, let me see. I just want you to picture what yarn look like. Yarn looks like. It's nicely rolled up. I mean, people aren't seamstresses like they used to be, so for some people I wouldn't even have to show a picture, but let me see. Let me just look this up because I like to be specific, even though you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I saw a picture of white yarn, right? I saw an image, a vision of white yarn. And here's what it looked like. I know you see my little hand and all that stuff, but here's what the white yarn looked like. Without that logo, of course, on it. Okay, without that. And then you saw the top. I saw the top like unraveling. Like I saw the top of it unraveling. Okay, that was the white yarn. That was white people. That was in 2021. When I saw black yarn, okay, it didn't look like that. You know what the black yarn looked like when I looked at it? Like somebody took the yarn out, like they unraveled all the yarn, and it was all tangled. It was an entanglement. When I saw the black yarn, it was not nicely folded like that white yarn. It was all taken loose and mixed up and entangled. So it's purposely actually being done in the ethers to make sure that brown people stay in a ball of confusion. It's more brown people under mind control purposely by archons, I think, than anybody else. Not to say that other people are not under mind control, but there's more of an effort to keep brown people under that type of control, even though everybody else is just about under mind control right now. And everybody else is pretty much gone. But you know what I mean? So, but that's what I saw. So media is not only pushing that, there is an effort to mess with the consciousness of brown people to make sure that they stay in a ball of confusion, that they stay hating each other, you know, because I'm never, I don't know if this really happened to other groups of people or did it just happen to every time I tap into my other life in the real world as a human person, I see feathers. And I realized that was the real world. Something happened over there where we were taking into another simulation, into a false world. And so, yeah, that's what I'm saying is that land is still around us, but we cannot see it because we are only seeing false light. We're only seeing false light. You have to rise up in consciousness in order to see the real world because it's still there. And so people keep talking about these reparations. I don't get into no reparations. I'm not even trying to go nowhere to get no land back because I realized that I'm in an illusion, and where I was before was more organic. It was organic consciousness. I'm not going to try to fight for anything under a false light in the false world when I'm not seeing the whole world for what it is. When I know that land is still all around me. Okay, but you got to see it. And in order to see it, you got to be able to rise up. And then you see stuff that you haven't seen before. Okay, and then you get your reparations when you rise in consciousness. Honestly, when you rise up in vibration and consciousness, that's when you get your reparations. It's not going to be like in a 3D type of world. Ain't no reparations happening with that. Of course, a lot of people have gone down to 2D and don't realize it though, because something happened in 2021 where nobody's left. Okay, I mean, I keep being shown that there's no people. So people don't. I think people have gone from 3D to 2D. Okay, so it's even worse now. Okay, but I'm just saying you got to get beyond 3D, and seeing a bunch of false projections. You got to get beyond that, and then once you get beyond that and get to the real world and get back to an organic consciousness, then that's your reparations, and you'll see that all these other stuff might fall out the way because all this stuff that a lot of us are seeing is a part of the false world. It's a part of the false light. And it seems like it's a fight to make sure that we keep giving this type of false light our attention, that we keep believing it's real when it's not. You know, And that's why I keep talking about it's time to make changes. It's just do what I have to do for the next couple of months or whatever, and get into a place where I don't have to keep engaging in the false world. Because each day I have to get up and I have to have something to do. That keeps me engaged in the false world, and it takes time away from me really working on cultivating the real world. I'm not cultivating my organic self. I'm not cultivating the organic self. In order to get back to the real, to get your real reparations, you gotta rise up and see the real world. You can't get reparations in the fake world. Okay? But that's all I gotta say, and I'll talk later.